Not alrighty then.
You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad I pressed record before that.
Just had to get warmed up. That's it.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 23 of Dead Reflections Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. New episodes drop every Friday. Our goal here is to give someone at the table the chills, and if we're lucky, we might even send those spooks along to you. We are your hosts,
Caleb.
Kolby?
and I'm your boy Josh, aka Director Voyages. I almost fucked that up.
Before we get into the show, we have a couple familiar with failure updates. July 9th in Midland at Sound Deep Fest. August 4th in San Angelo at the Dojo. August 5th in Houston at the White Swan. And we always have new shows in the works, but we won't announce until dates and venues are secured. Now, on the topic of bands and such, what kind of merch you got on?
Well,
I ain't got a band on,
It's merch. You do got one, kind of.
but I do have the best goddamn hockey team this side of the goddamn, I don't know,
Rio
river,
Grande.
Something river. Go Stars.
go Stars!
As well as
Charlie Crockett. Charlie Crockett also lives in Dallas.
Oh, nice. I am currently wearing a shirt from Wicked Clothes.
Oh shit, oh have the
This-
turns tabled.
This is a little skeleton guy on a beach, and it says everything is going to be okay.
That skeleton guy's lying. I don't like it.
Um,
Hell yeah. Give it up for Wicked Clothing. And I am repping us because I am self-centered and an asshole.
and you forgot to bring a shirt for a double
Yeah,
episode today.
yeah.
Yeah,
I still
damn
got
it.
the Grogu
Good thing I
hat.
keep 7,000 shirts over here.
I had one in my pocket.
I got one in my pocket, but I'm repping the new shirt that has the mace on the back with some lyrics from Injustice, right?
Correct.
Windu?
Yeah.
There's also a little
Mace
Easter
Windu.
egg
Yeah,
where the
can we-
injustice is written in a certain area of the T-shirt.
Yeah. Caleb
Buy and
designed these
find out.
shirts. They're really awesome.
Can we do a spin-off of that shirt and make a mace in
That,
Mace
like
Windu?
it's Mace Windu's head with
Yeah, I was
spikes.
gonna say instead of oh god, I hate that I'm in on this nerd stuff.
I love
It's
it.
just it's only because it's Sam.
Tired of
It's
these
Sam's
motherfucking
face.
Sith
Yeah, it's just Sam's face.
in the motherfucking Senate.
He's still alive.
Damn right.
Is
He's definitely still alive.
Oh, he has to be.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. He's a Jedi Master. He got blasted out of a window. Give me a motherfucking break.
Fucking.
It was
Dude got
zapped. I don't
zapped.
give a shit.
Then again, those were the same movies that Qui-Gon died from one fucking stab.
Dude, I love that meme. Like, spoiler alert for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but a lot of people get stabbed by a lightsaber, but they all live. And then you got it shows each one getting stabbed, and then you got Qui-Gon at the end. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, like, because he literally got stabbed in the same spot. Like,
How tragic.
Darth Maul, you fucking asshole.
Well, last episode we did not draw from Stephen Alexander because we didn't want to.
yeah,
and
we didn't
also
fucking want to.
Because we were recording double episodes today. So,
Jesus.
Christ. So normally we at the end of the episode we'll draw. At today's episode we will draw, but because we're recording back-to-back scheduling issues, we didn't because we had pre-prepared stories. So,
Steven thinks he's cooler than us.
do you
Hell
have
yeah.
any information on y'all's stories that we can get into? Not giving too much
So
away.
my story, I got it from Creepypasta, and it is about a girl like her boyfriend's dreams and nightmares are scaring her.
Okay. Mine is going to be about a TV show in Canada that some people remember, some don't. And
Wait a minute. What?
Oh God, you're doing the Nelson. What is it?
a Mandela effect
Mandela
kind of thing,
effect?
but it's got a little bit of a twist on it. Yeah, we'll get into it later.
My story is a story that I've been sitting on for a while. But I never got, or I don't think we ever wrote anything down. I guess it could fall under cryptids. But we
like
never
me some
really
cryptids.
had anything in Stephen Alexander to pull
Okay.
that this would fall under. By the way, Stephen Alexander is our nice little jar here.
Our
that
jar of stories.
we pull our stories out every episode. But my story is the backwards man.
Why you got two backwards things
Yeah,
back to back?
backwards
Last
doggy.
episode you had backwards dog.
Yeah, so that didn't occur to me.
Well, you said this is an old story you've been sitting on for a while,
True.
so
Yeah.
Why
We'll
you
let
gotta
it
sit on
slide.
your stories? Why you sit on your stories? Are you trying to have them hatch?
I don't want them to.
My dad joke is out.
Hey, also, if you're brand new and you're watching the video version of the podcast on YouTube, this is Elvira. She had a introduction story early on into the life of this podcast, and it spooked Josh.
Yes, it was terrifying. What was that, episode 4? Dolls? Go listen
was
to
early.
episode titled Dolls if you want to hear me shit my pants.
And I think she has a little
She has her
story
own
coming up
story,
soon.
Yeah,
Have some
Yep,
story,
this
yeah.
week. I know I said that last week, but no,
Be sure
this week.
to subscribe to the YouTube, and so you
All
get
socials.
notification for when that video comes out.
It'll be. We'll release it on Insta, and then it'll be
It
released.
should be out
onto,
by this episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll release it on the actual podcast, like Apple Podcast, Spotify as well. But we'll let it sit on Insta for a little while.
Hell yeah. But yeah, no, backwards man. Everything's backwards.
And actually, so this episode
You'll find out.
will be out on the 8th of July. So if you're listening to this right now on Friday and you're in the Midland area,
We
Come
in
to
you.
the
we're
show.
here. Yeah, you need
We're
to come
here,
out to
like,
Midland.
hello, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
We'll be there on the night of the 8th, and we play a show on the 9th.
With a bunch of sick bands. It's going to be a cool show.
Dude, we're going to be playing with our brothers in Brightburn.
Through Life. There's so many. Flip Cup.
Through
there's a
Life,
bunch.
Flip. I know, dude, they're all awesome. Which, by the way, speaking of Spotify, Brightburn and Sound Deep made a playlist that you can.
Oh, with everybody on it?
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's titled Sound Deep Forever Fest Playlist 20.
Gotcha. I'm sure we can link it.
Yeah, totally. And it's got all of us on there, like songs from all of us.
Nice.
And yeah,
Come
I've been
check us
jamming
out. See some people. Also, before I know this is a little long-winded, but we bring this Stephen Alexander to shows. If
Yes.
you come to the Midland show, write down a spooky topic, and we can possibly draw it. It will get drawn eventually,
Yeah.
as we do draw continuously. So
Yeah.
It could be a scary thing that happened to you, or just
Yeah.
a scary story that you read online that you want us to read ourselves and read here on the podcast.
okay.
And if you don't go to a show, you can always hit up the deadreflectionspod@gmail.com
Yeah.
to send in a story. We would love to read your stories. And
I'm bored of introductory stuff.
okay,
I'm ready to be scared.
all right. Your fists are clenched like you're ready to fight.
My bad.
You are just on point with the thunderstorm timings. Oh, by the way, we are lighting the ceremonial candle of horror stories, and also welcoming in all demons to touch Kolby.
Please,
I'm gonna light this one too.
right on my
Go for 3.
right on my thigh.
23.
Just claw me on my thigh, please. All the demons.
At once. Just imagine that your leg just chops
You
off.
just seize up. Okay.
All right, let's go.
It's now time for the backwards man.
Oh boy.
If you see this thing on the side of the road, don't drive home. This thing is an urban legend called the backwards man. According to the legend, you might see it standing on the side of the road when you're driving. Some say it's always when you're on your way home. I've seen pictures of it circulating among us by text message. Oddly, I've never seen any of those pictures posted online. I'm not sure if it's because of fear, because those who've taken the pictures want to perpetuate the mystique of the urban legend or because of something else. I'm pretty sure those pictures had been a hoax. Just someone dressed up as the backwards man. Maybe it was the same person every time. It wears tattered clothing backwards, usually a flannel and jeans. Its painted, smiling face looks eerily realistic until it turns to the side and you can see the smooth surface of the back of its head. It seems that it shaves its hair off and puts a shoulder-length wig on that covers up its real face. Those who I've met who claim to have spotted the backwards man say they waited a week before driving home, staying over at a friend's house or a hotel, and not even bothering to go home to pack a suitcase. I've also heard, though, that you need to wait a month. The common consensus seems to be, if you see it while driving home, don't finish the drive home. Turn around, go somewhere else, and wait at least a week. I thought it was a bunch of nonsense, until my date and I saw the backwards man when we were on the way back to my house from the movies. "Slow down," she said. "I think I see that man you told me about." It took me a minute to register what she'd said, for I didn't consider this thing to be a man. My date, Kara, had only lived in my city for half a year. So on my quest to share with her as many interesting things as I could, I shared with her our local urban legend. I never had seen someone dressed as the backwards man in person. Pictures, sure, but never in person. My foot was shaking as I eased up on the gas. It was dark, nearing midnight, and there were either no street lights or they were off. My car's headlight lit it up. On the side of the road, it was facing us. And by facing us, I mean it had its back to us. The painted face was facing us. The jeans and flannel shirt were all turned our way as well. Its arms and legs looked wrong. They were shoved down its clothing the opposite way. I wanted to be amused, but I was pretty alarmed. When we got to be about 10 feet away in my car, it turned its painted head towards us. Those painted eyes, realistic but forever held too wide, seemed to be staring right into mine. As we drove slowly by, I waved to see if this might be a person or just joking around, keeping the urban legend alive, but he didn't wave back. This was when my heart dropped to my stomach. Everything pointed to this being the truth of the urban legend, and I had acknowledged it. I continued driving in pure terror and the unknown of what might happen to us. I glanced back to see the slick side of its shaved, painted head, and the optical illusion of a real face being there was shattered. Shattered, but somehow worse for it. Also, when I peered into the rearview mirror as we increased our distance, I thought I saw something glinting beneath the shoulder-length wig it wore. Then it was gone. Lost to the darkness. I picked up speed. It hadn't been walking, but somehow I was worried it would come after us. "So what do we do now?" Kara said. "We can't go to your home or mine." I glanced at her and she started laughing. "After tonight, we'll be able to tell everyone that we saw the backwards man and went immediately home. I wonder who was pretending to be him," Kara said. "I wonder why they were doing it. Do you think we should turn back around and try to talk to them?" That's when I realized she didn't believe in the legend, and that she didn't detect the horror that I was mentally experiencing. I gathered my wits and answered her. We probably shouldn't, even if it was just a person," I struggled to vocalize. "Ah, dang. I wanted to see what it would have said to us." "But I'm sure it's just someone looking to keep their urban legend alive," Kara said. I felt like a weakling when she told me that, and I didn't want to show my date that I was afraid of something she wasn't. "All right," I said. "We'll turn back around. My dad used to say, if you're in doubt, which turn to make. You can always take a U-turn until you figure things out. But as I did my U-turn, my heart was thrashing in my chest. We drove down the entirety of that dark street without seeing that thing again. It was a couple of miles long in that direction, so there's no way that it could have walked or run the distance so quickly. Kara and I decided that the person dressed as the backwards man must have left the shoulder of the road for the surrounding woods. The idea of them hiding in the woods as we drove by again made my skin crawl and my hair stand up. We did another U-turn, and during that time, I kept glancing around in case it jumped at us from out of nowhere. But soon we were heading back in the direction of my house with no second look at the backwards man. Kara and I tried to laugh it out. We tried talking about other things, but both of us were pretty scared. We couldn't stop chatting about everything and nothing, or glancing out the windows into our side mirrors. We turned onto my subdivision. Then we turned onto my street. And everything changed. As soon as we turned onto my street, we started to go back. We started to go backwards instead of forwards. Is the car in reverse, Kara said? Her ice-cold hand gripping my arm. I stopped the car. Both of us were looking down. The car was in drive. I took my foot off the brake and put it onto the gas pedal again. The houses, familiar houses, I saw every day when coming home, were moving away from us. Maybe something's wrong with my car, I said. But when I tried driving forward again, I looked to the side and then in the rearview mirror. We weren't moving, not according to those views. In front of us, the houses receded every time I put the foot on the gas, but from the side and rear, it appeared that we were standing still. On my street, everything was well lit. There were tons of streetlights, so we couldn't argue it away as if it had anything to do with limited visibility. Let's get out of here, Kara whispered. Yeah, I said in a similar way. Pause. Are the dogs still in here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank God.
Was that a breath? Was that...
Huh?
I don't know what I heard.
Yeah, I said in a similar way, but how are we going to leave? Put it in reverse. When I put my car in reverse and tried that, we actually moved forward.
It's like opposite day or something. It's weird.
But to the side and rear, once again, we seemed to have not moved. Like we were caught just past the entrance to my neighborhood. It was when Kara and I had stopped the car and were debating getting out that we spotted someone coming towards us on the sidewalk. They were approaching us from the front of the vehicle, so I'm not sure how accurate the distance was. It seemed like they were already about 20 feet away. I don't know why it took me so long to realize this. Maybe it was because I didn't want to, but I recognized my neighbor by the back of his head and by the body shape, which was somewhat atypical. I'd seen him often working in his garden while I was driving by. He was walking backwards to us. When he got closer, he stopped. Then he began shouting, "Imple! Imple!" over and over again. Standing statue still, his back to us. Only later would I realize that he had been saying "help me" in reverse. I rolled down the window. "Mr. Nelson," I said, "what's the matter?" He stopped shouting now that my window was down. I could hear his body creak and snap. Blood poured out of his fissures as the joints of his arms and legs changed drastically. When Mr. Nelson's head twisted all the way around towards us, I was sure that I saw the light go out of his eyes. Then whatever had taken over Mr. Nelson made a first step forward with the new architecture of his body. Kara and I both began to scream at the first step. I rolled up the window as Mr. Nelson loped around on strange, inhuman legs. His kneecaps and elbows had become stretched and exaggerated from being reversed. I put my foot on the gas with the car still in reverse, and through the front windows we seemed to be careening forward. Even though a glance out the sides or in the rear view showed us to still be stationary, we slammed into Mr. Nelson. Blood slashed across the windshield. The car rose and fell as we went over his body. To the sides and rear, there was no indication of the car rising and falling, nor did I see a lump appear behind us. I kept my foot on the gas, still going forward in reverse. I saw a window of a neighbor's house shatter. A couple I barely recognized crawled out like spiders of an egg sac, leaking blood and more blood as they scraped themselves against the shards in the window frame. When the wife paused in the window, she smiled. She intentionally rubbed her scalp against a particularly sharp-looking piece of glass. Meat and blood tore away, so much that I could start to see the white of her skull.
Oh my God.
But then her husband was already on the ground running towards us. I sped forward. They and their houses vanished in the sides of the rear of the vehicle, which were, again, still stuck near the street's entrance. More people were coming out of their homes. They came out all twisted and broken, damaging themselves further as they exited. They ran towards us on backwards legs, turning their backwards arms. Everything about them was backwards. Before long, I found myself slamming on the brakes. "Keep going," Kara yelled. "They're going to catch up with us." Ahead, I saw my own driveway. Someone that looked like me was talking to another person with a painted face. The painted face nodded. Up and down, it nodded like a real face would. Then, when I saw the wig shuffle and move seemingly on its own, I realized that the true face on that wig was talking, moving its lips, breathing. The backwards man was talking to me, or someone who looked like me. At the same time, Kara was reaching over me, trying desperately to put her foot on the gas. A couple of twisted pieces of bone and meat collided with the windshield. Two faces with bunched up folds of neck leered at me out of glazed eyes. These were faces I should have recognized. Their twisted arms continued to beat at the window, even though their eyes told me that no one was home. A spider's web of cracks spread across my windshield. Its grooves caught blood. I slammed my foot on the gas while helping to steady Kara back into her seat. We flung those two off, and right after we ran over an entire family in quick succession. I didn't have time to feel guilty. These were not my neighbors. These were not my neighbors. These were not my... Kara and I both began to change. I heard some of my bones break. I felt it a moment later, like the reverse of lightning before thunder. Kara and I started screaming almost in unison and about the same time. It was like a choir of pain and fear had risen up with us as instruments. "Keep your head back," I yelled as I strove to keep my head pinned against my seat. "Don't let it twist around, no matter what happens to us or the rest of our bodies. We can't let it kill us." "I know," Kara said. "Just get the car out of here. Make a U-turn or something." Make a U-turn, I thought. That's when I remembered what my dad had taught me. Still in reverse, yet still going forward, I wheeled the car, screeching around. I didn't glance out the sides or the rear, I gunned it, heading back towards where we had came from. The backwards man waited. It waited for me at the juncture of my driveway and the street. Its painted mouth grinned forever. Its painted eyes were too wide and incapable of blinking. We passed it and drove out of the neighborhood. Kara and I weren't out of the woods, though. I was able to get us to a nearby gas station before my legs and arms, which were part way reversed and leaking blood, completely gave out. We crawled out of the vehicle and onto the cold, hard concrete of the gas station. I blacked out almost at once, but Kara told me she retained consciousness until the ambulance arrived. I didn't envy her. We spent months in the hospital with broken bones and torn ligaments and muscle. I think the only thing that has saved us permanent damage might have been the seats of our vehicle resisting our changes. We told the doctors that we had been in a car accident. They shook their heads at us and kept asking questions. I did go back home eventually. We both did. The reason I went home was because one of my neighbors that we had run over with my car came to visit me in the hospital. They seemed completely fine, as if nothing had happened and the backwards man had never changed them. But damage was done to my vehicle and to Cara and I, both physically and psychologically. And while our bodies are on the mend, I don't think we'll ever be the same. I feel backwards insides. I'll do that again. I feel backwards inside.
Dude, that went from fucking... Dude, I bet you Cara felt like a fucking bitch for being like, this ain't shit, it ain't real. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, so you see what I was saying as aside from the events of that story, the I guess the facade of a man wearing his shit backwards.
Yeah,
could
that's
be like,
weird.
Could be like a shtick for a serial killer.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, you could see through a wig. So like, you know, when stalking the person, you just stand facing away from the window when you know they're gonna walk by. Like, fuck, that would fuck me up so hard. God damn.
What you think of it, Caleb?
Very creepy. Very, very creepy. It just makes me think of the dude that I saw.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially like the flannel and everything.
Well, not even that. It wasn't the detail of that. It was the detail of being on your, like, once you're on your street is like when he has it.
Yeah.
It's like once you head home, that's when he's like, you're in his realm now.
And he has no other power. Like, even I'm pretty sure if you approached him on the side of the road and like got out of your car, I'm sure nothing would happen.
Well, but that was the thing in the story. It said like I had acknowledged him. He waved at him.
Yeah.
And he said that like that was the.
I guess, yeah.
That's
or
whenever
if,
you
like,
made
if you look at
contact.
his
Yeah,
face.
that must be like the folklore of it is like acknowledging that
Which
he's
face
there.
though?
Oh.
What do you I'm curious? What do y'all picture whenever you think face, painted face?
So
Is there a picture? Please
from-
tell me there's no picture.
there might be.
Okay. Not one directly associated. Okay.
But from what I could tell, listening to other people tell this story, because I did change a lot of details in the story just because it had a lot of, I think it's a British story
Okay.
or some European author
Different measurements
created
and
it.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and just the vocab that they
Yeah.
use. And so I changed a lot of it, but I'm sure a lot of it that I did watch, they said that it was drastically like realistic painting on the back of his head. But like to the point where if you looked at it straight on, it had like shadows and like it played with angles. And so, like, if you looked at it straight on, it looked like a person's defined, like, facial features. But then as soon as you get to the side of them, it's smooth back of the head.
So weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the backwards man for you.
Very, very creepy. That one's going to sit with me as well.
Like for me, I was picturing like a very like almost cartoonishly drawn big smile and like.
Also, the story had a lot of detail of. It had a lot of detail to begin with. There's a lot of cool lines in there.
I forget. There is a
Oh God, no.
there is a video like recreation, like
Oh yeah.
kind of like
so,
how
yeah,
your story
okay.
that one time.
But a lot
So
of
we
detail.
can watch that if y'all want to.
We could maybe after.
Yeah.
But the cutting and tearing and like leaking. It said leaking a lot and twisting.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like that imagery.
Those kinds of words are just like
That it's a very good word selection because it's unnatural. Like it's even more so than like bones breaking. Your bones twisting is different. Like it's a good selection of words that is gonna make that story sit with me for much longer.
It's weird how your limbs are the first thing to turn backwards.
Yeah. And the head is
according
last. It's
to-
like, let's cause as much pain as possible first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Stranger Things yet, but
I saw the first season.
okay, well, the newest season, like a part of like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's like some like the body's getting like,
Oh, like mangled.
yeah,
and
and
stuff.
like that's what I was like picturing the whole time you were talking about it. Like when you watch it, you're gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
I thought about what was it, Mortuary Assistant? They had there was one little scene in there where it's
oh yeah, where she's like,
yeah,
oh fuck,
yeah, a little
that's
twisting,
that
yeah,
shit.
creepy game.
Ah,
So it's,
And then I think when she points back, her arm goes like,
oh,
yeah,
backwards.
yeah, it's like it goes like
Yeah.
this, yeah,
very good game. That should be
Yeah.
out this year, right?
yeah, I
it's
think
this
so.
year.
yeah.
No, I think they pushed it to 2023.
Okay. Regardless,
that's
it's going to
okay.
be played.
Yes, we should dedicate a whole like episode to playing that.
That'd be terrifying.
Oh man,
Why'd you
Oh,
put it? Why'd
man.
you say that?
because we're doing it. Like one of us will play it and the other two watch. Because I mean that's the thing with that game. It doesn't matter. Like if
Yeah.
if you're watching, it's gonna freak you out.
Yeah.
I just saw the drop of wax just viciously fall down off of that middle candle.
Oh yeah, look at it. It's all
Yeah, it's
built
got a
on
big
the side. Oh, that's crazy.
For
So
people listening and just now tuning in, we have a mound of black candle wax
yeah,
in the middle of the table. We light a candle every episode, at
every
least one.
episode, at least
yeah.
one. We had
Today we got
three,
three.
and I was like, fuck it. Yeah, and the one that's technically for this episode is the middle one, and it's catching up to the two that were
Yeah.
already short, which
It's always weird how that works.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like some burn really quick and they're gone by the time that we're done. and
I
some
think it's
just-
the atmosphere too. I think the atmosphere is like a big part of that.
If this is 23, I hate to see what like the mound of wax.
That's the
after,
point. Like I
episode
want it.
100.
I want it to be
Or
built
something.
up so much that it becomes like a mound. But so, dude, those stories were.
We just
or
build
that
a
story was
wall.
great.
Build
Yeah, I
a
can't
wall
even see
between
you.
y'all two.
That'd be funny. But now it's your turn because I have the boner.
Let's hit a break real
Oh
quick.
yeah. We'll be right back after this brief sponsor break. Uh-oh. Oh no, the table. It broke. I fucked it all up. Do it again. So you have a story, right?
I do.
Oh, what is your story?
This one, I'm not going to go into any back detail. I'm going to tell you the title. We're going to just get right into it.
All right.
Title is, have you seen an old Canadian kids show called The Big Room? All throughout Canada, a sizable handful of older folks claim to have seen a show titled The Big Room. At least, that's the most common title people use. Other people remember it being called In the Big Room or A Big Room, some variation of those titles. Here are the accounts I've collected from people who have talked about it. Supposedly, the first known record of this show was in Toronto in the early 1950s, and the last known record was in Vancouver in the early 1980s. It never aired on one specific TV station, but would be aired on random stations dependent on the date, and would only broadcast on one or a few specific TVs at a certain time. Every single episode of the show was in black and white, and even after the majority of the country had switched to color. What was the show about? Most testimonies agree it consisted of a large cast of characters getting into silly antics in a large room. No two episodes would have the exact same characters, but supposedly the cast consisted of a mix of puppets and people in costumes. Reports of the cast themselves vary, but the most consistent descriptions include a woman with a cartoonishly large nose, a person in a rubber cow mask who spoke entirely in mooing, a monkey puppet with gross human teeth, a person in an unsettling white rabbit costume, a man whose face was a smooth white mask, 2 black eyes, and a smiling black mouth, a bird-like puppet with messy feathers, and the disembodied talking head of a teenage girl mounted on the wall like a stuffed deer.
The fuck?
Due to the presence of Japanese text in some episodes, some speculated that the show was of Japanese origin, though this was never confirmed. It's also worth noting that the show only had been viewed by children and never by adults or teens. None of the reported viewers had been over the age of 12 when they had watched it. But what makes the show so infamous and why so many people talk about it despite there being no footage evidence of it existing is the ending of each episode. At the end of each episode, the cast would all turn to the camera and thank the viewers, and then they would name drop the specific person watching the show right now. If there was more than one person in the room, the cast would mention all of their names too. Some children were frightened by this. Others found it flattering and didn't realize the horror of the situation until they had grown up. I first heard about the show from my mother when she was telling me about some of the shows she watched when she was a child in the 70s. I didn't think too much of The Big Room at the time. Sure, it was a little weird that the show somehow knew the name of my mom and her brother, but it must have been some weird coincidence or the result of distorted memories. It wasn't until I decided to look the show up out of curiosity that I started to become weirded out. There was no IMDb or no Wikipedia, and CBC had no mention of it on their sites. I'm guessing CBC is like a Canadian broadcast. I did, however, find a very compelling forum thread about it, so I immediately clicked. The thread was mostly filled with younger people closer to my age who had heard about the show through their older relatives, though there were a few older users who had claimed to have seen it themselves. The more I read through the thread, I learned about the show and I became more interested. That was half a year ago, and ever since then I've been asking around, both online and in person, to see if I can find anyone else who's seen the show or knows someone who has seen it. A lot of people I spoke to insisted that the show wasn't real and that it was a result of a bunch of collective false memories, or maybe even an elaborate ARG, which I could not tell you. They did not elaborate on what ARG is.
I think maybe it has to do with because so many a collective thing of people believing something that's not real.
Yeah, well, they say collective false memories or maybe an elaborate ARG, like it's a separate thing.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll have to double check on that and see what it was,
Yeah.
but we'll continue. But I still believed in it. Even if there was no evidence of this show anywhere, surely there were too many eyewitness testimonies out there to write it off as a hoax, right? I've always had a thing for lost media, and this was one of the most fascinating examples I knew of. My biggest breakthrough came when I spoke to Aaron, one of my closest friends, about it. We were chatting over our local coffee shop, and I decided to tell her about my search for The Big Room. As I described what I heard about the show to her, she just kind of casually nodded for the most part, but as soon as I mentioned the person with the cow mask, Aaron's eyes flew open, her lower jaw dropped. "Holy shit," Aaron said. "My dad mentioned of having an aunt who wore a cow mask and worked on a kid's show, and I completely forgot about it until now."
What?
We didn't hesitate. Aaron drove me right over to her parents' house to speak to her father, Paul.
Pa.
Aaron told her father that I wanted to know more about the aunt who wore the cow mask. He wondered why I was so curious about the weird old memory, but decided it wouldn't hurt to talk about it anyway. Paul explained that he knew very little of his aunt and didn't even remember her name. He heard she worked on a kid's show, but didn't know what the show was called and never saw any episodes of it. The aunt very rarely came over to their house, never more than once a year, but when she did, she always insisted on wearing the cow mask. He had no idea what her face looked like, and she never ever spoke, instead making mooing sounds. He always thought she was weird, but usually didn't think too much about the visits with her. Paul then told me his aunt passed away in the early 80s, which I realized conveniently lined up with when The Big Room was stopped being seen.
Yeah.
After she died, Paul's family was given the aunt's cow mask by coroners, and they've kept it in a box in the closet ever since. I began to quiver with excitement. My friend's family actually had a prop from the long-lost show I was looking for. I politely asked if I could see it. He said yes, in fact, I could keep it. He had no use for that old cow mask anymore. I couldn't thank Paul enough. As soon as he handed me the box, I grabbed it from him and continued to thank him even after I walked out of the door. On the drive home, Erin congratulated me on my find, then told me that she had an appointment today and unfortunately wouldn't be able to be there when she opened the box. However, she said I could send her photos since she was just as curious as I was to see what was in it. I promised I would, before thanking her as she dropped me off at my house and drove away. In my bedroom, I opened up the box and pulled out the item inside. An ordinary-looking rubber cow mask that was in surprisingly good condition for something that had apparently been created back in the 50s. I turned the mask over in my hands a few times. Excitement slowly waned. I couldn't help but wonder if this prop was legit or not. There was nothing to confirm it was just a generic cow mask bought from a local store recently or old, you couldn't tell. Maybe Erin and her father were just playing some kind of prank on me. Even if it was a prank, then it was unbelievable. It was an unbelievably elaborate one, given that Erin didn't seem to know about the show before I told her, and there would have been no way for her to tell her father in the time that we drove to their house. I took a few photos of the mask from different angles, promising myself to send them to Erin and post them online soon. I then decided maybe a photo or two of myself wearing the mask would be fun. I put it on, surprised by how comfortable it felt, even if it was so cheap looking and old. After taking a few selfies from both the front and side, I reached up to pull the mask off my face, but it wouldn't budge. For some reason, the mask felt a lot tighter on my skin and a lot warmer than when I had first put it on. The harder I tugged with both hands, the more it hurt, as if I was pulling my own skin instead of a rubber covering. I began to panic, hyperventilate, and the mask heated up more and more until it felt like I had a fever. The room began to sway as I felt dizzy and nauseous. I wanted to vomit before realizing that would only make things worse. Sweat formed on my skin, my face began to itch like crazy, but the mask prevented me from scratching or wiping away the sweat. I grabbed my phone and desperately began to text Erin for help. However, the phone began to ring while I was in the middle of typing the message. It said the call was coming from, quote, the big room. Even though I didn't have that number anywhere in my contacts, I answered it anyway, just out of curiosity. "Hi, Kelly," said a male voice that sounded pre-recorded. My hands trembled, and I felt like puking again. How did this man know my name? The voice continued, "We're really happy to have you part of the big room. We unfortunately had to end the show a long time ago as one of our favorite cast members, Miss Moo the Cow Lady, passed away. However, now that you've agreed to become the new Miss Moo, we can safely say that our show will now be resuming production very well soon. And don't worry about your friend Erin. We'll find a part for her as well. We'll be coming over tonight to pick you up. Until then, moo your heart away, Kelly." As soon as the message ended, the caller hung up. I was terrified and confused. I had a million questions dancing through my brain. What the fuck is going on? I screamed out. I screamed out loud to no one in particular. At least, that's what I tried to say. But all that came out was a loud mooing sound.
Bro. I don't like that. Dude. No, like...
It's a creepy one.
Yeah, because it not only, like, because it reminds me of the Haunted Mask from Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Kinda. But at the same time, like, the whole Mandela effect thing, like,
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that shit.
For me, that story was kind of split in two. You had the part where it was the show that people remembered seeing, and that I think is a actual thing. I think there was like a show that people remember seeing, can't find it, and they had weird, creepy characters and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the second half is the tale of the mask itself.
The show I think was called like the Blue Island or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like puppets and stuff.
Yeah.
And people they have like pictures of it and everything, but it didn't exist.
Yeah, nobody could find proof of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So an ARG is alternate reality game.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe like a video game that came out at the same time or something.
I mean, the alternate reality like gaming systems were out in the 80s. Like it just was not good graphics.
Yeah.
The virtual reality has been around for a while.
Yeah. So the part where you said they would
Say the names.
say the names of the
Yeah.
people watching. That one got me because on Hive Mind, a YouTube series I watch,
Oh yeah.
they do that.
Did they call your name?
No,
No.
but they
Yeah.
say a random name from
Yeah.
a random part of the country in every intro of their video, and I'm
be
like,
like, yeah.
one day this is gonna
And you're gonna be like, nope.
they're no one day they're gonna get it right, like get someone in the right city,
Yeah.
like which and sometimes it is pretty like
It's like
common,
Yeah.
like a common thing, like Sarah in Detroit. There's 1,000 Sarahs
Yeah.
in Detroit, but some of them are pretty specific. Like one of them is gonna be accurate, and it's gonna scare me.
Oh man, that's crazy.
So the thing that this reminds me of, and I don't know if either of y'all have watched it. There was a show called Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
remember that?
I'd
That's what
never
I was-
watched it, but I remember
Yeah,
that
that,
name.
I was getting vibes of that, like whenever I was thinking about this, because it's very creepy. It's
And
like
Yo Gabba Gabba was creepy.
it was a little weird. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was just
was
a lot
weird.
of dancing. The dude was like just eccentric.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could say most kid shows were
yeah, when you go
creepy
back
as
and
shit.
watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even SpongeBob is eerily creepy at sometimes. Like
Yeah, and then you got stuff like The Simpsons that constantly predicts things that happen.
that, I don't even want to get into that.
Shit is nuts, dude. All right, well, that was a good story, man. I really enjoyed that. It had me like on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I think it really touches home with me because, like I said, I'm super into the Mandela effect, and like I'm super into like that because like the whole like multi-universe theory and how things bleed
Yeah,
into each
something
other.
slipped. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's just like that's crazy. But that one was cool because not only was that the aspect, but also the whole thing with making it scary with the mask.
yeah,
I think we should break.
yeah.
What is that?
That's the puppy
dogs.
dog.
You didn't, they were doing that the entire.
Oh, they're
entire
hot.
story.
Yeah, it is very hot outside.
But why did they just start that?
Because that's how they.
No,
cool
but
off.
like they weren't doing it.
Well, it's
like,
hot in here. It's
Yeah,
well, we
30
also turned
minutes
the
before.
AC was on 30 minutes ago, or however
sure.
long. ago.
Yeah. All right. Well,
We could
yeah.
wrap it up real quick.
Yeah,
oh,
let's-
we need to draw.
I haven't done
He
my
still has
story
a
yet.
story.
Oh, you have a story, dude. This has been a long day.
Yeah. All right.
I
Let's
think,
take
I
a
think
break real
they'll,
quick.
they'll be fine for the next like 20 minutes while he tells the story outside.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go. put
Yeah,
it on.
yeah. We're just gonna. He's gonna. Sound speed.
I completely thought we were done. I was like, oh god, I was worried about the dogs. Now you don't get to tell a story. All right, puppies.
Oh, I feel bad for them.
I don't. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I do.
We still get some wind and everything.
Especially Alvin, you can hear Alvin. I was like,
Chunk's breed is made for the heat.
Yeah.
He's fine, but Alvin's isn't.
and
Plus Alvin fucking broke his shit.
yeah, he dying.
But yeah, I was
Stumbled through
I was
that one.
hoping it wouldn't get like so bad.
Yeah. Well, they also decided to get real close to us.
Yeah.
Maybe they were scared.
Have you
That's
never
what
heard
I-
about
that's what-
that, like the TV shows that people remember, like the kid shows?
Yeah.
I
hold
just
on.
know about like events and shit that mass people have like.
I think there's like a
remembered.
whole YouTube series on not maybe this show or like what I think that story was is somebody took that show and like made their like little spin on it.
Yeah. So there is a drama show called Channel Zero, and
That's
they
what it was,
actually it's about
Never heard of that.
it's about the that TV show.
Cool.
It's called Candle Cove. That's the
Okay.
name of the show.
Never heard of that either.
Yeah, Candle Cove is an online creepypasta horror story written by web cartoonist and author
Shifted for
Chris
you.
in 2009.
No, it's panning left and right for a second there.
Your vision?
New.
Oh,
How'd you?
So essentially, Candle Cove, like the story about it, came out on creepypasta, and then people started to say, no, that was a real thing. Like we remember that it was in the 80s that the show came out. But yeah, that's yeah. Look, there's so many. Do you remember Candle Cove? It's even got a. It's got a. Oh, I thought that was a IMB or whatever that shit's called. But yeah,
IMDb.
no. Apparently, that was like a show that people remember happening and it never happened, according to,
I'm going to switch to your cam and then we'll resume.
All right.
Sound speed!
So, my story, I'm not going to get into it because I don't know too much because I only read like the first little bit. But the reason why I went for it was because I wanted to talk about something later that has to do with dreams, and that's what this story is about. Mm-hmm. So here's my story. My boyfriend's dreams are starting to scare me. My name is Harley, and I've been with my boyfriend Dan for 5 years. Lived with him for 3. I love Dan more than anything in this world. He's my best friend, my partner in crime, my biggest pest, and my number 1 supporter. I honestly couldn't imagine my life without him anymore. We both work in the food service industry. He's a chef, and I'm a server. Food is his biggest passion, and while being a line cook doesn't pay much, it's worth to see him do something he loves. Working in the food service means we work some pretty weird hours. It's not uncommon for us to get off work after midnight, come home, quickly scarf down our dinner, then head to bed and sleep until around 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. Dan has a much easier time falling asleep than I do. Most nights, as soon as his head touches the pillow, he's out like a light. I, on the other hand, struggle a bit more to settle my mind and get comfortable. This leads usually to me plugging in my headphones to watch YouTube or scroll through Reddit until I fall asleep, while trying not to move or make too much noise that would wake him, though he's a pretty heavy sleeper, so I never have to worry about it much. Dan has always been a very animated dreamer. He talks in his sleep every single night. Sometimes he even sings or raps. When we first started sleeping together, he would speak so clearly I honestly thought he was still awake. Sometimes I like to talk to him while he's asleep and tell him about our little nocturnal conversations in the morning. He also has a tendency to sleepwalk on occasion, which can be a bit worrisome. Dan sleeps naked, and I can't very well just let him walk out of our apartment in his birthday suit in the middle of the night. Recently, though, his dreams have been getting kind of odd. And when I say recently, I mean within the past year. It started with what seemed to be a few bad dreams. I always keep one earphone out just in case he says something funny or if he gets out of bed and I need to hear. One night, Dan began tossing and turning and whimpering, literally whimpering like a scared puppy. Suddenly, he rolled over to me, his eyes open wide. His expression was terrified and frantic. "Harley!" he called out with a trembling voice. The fact that he didn't even see me though his eyes were open was enough for me to realize he was still asleep. Hey, it's okay," I cooed quietly and gently cupped his face in my hands. "I'm right here. Everything's all right." Dan let out a relief sigh before snuggling against me and pulling my body tight against his. For the rest of the night, anytime I moved, his eyes would shoot open again with the same frantic expression, and I would have to calm him down and let him know I wasn't going anywhere. I asked him about it the next morning, and he said he didn't remember a thing, though he said he had a really weird dream, but he couldn't remember what about. This went on for about 3 days. The next 2 nights after that were calm, and I figured he had just had a few bad dreams due to some stress from work. About a week after that, give or take a few days, something even weirder happened. We were laying in bed like normal when suddenly Dan just got up and walked over to our bedroom window. I pulled my earphone out and called him. "Dan, what are you doing, baby?" At first he didn't answer, so I called to him again. He then placed his finger on the glass as if he was pointing to something outside. "They're coming," he whispered. "Who's coming?" I was starting to get a bit worried, so I made my way over to the window to see what he was talking about. We live in a second-story studio apartment on a side of a fairly busy road. It's not uncommon to see people walking or driving by even late at night. But that wouldn't explain what he was talking about. "They want inside." Dan suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist in an almost possessive or protective manner. "We can't let them in. I won't let them in. I won't let them hurt you." Though I was a little freaked out, I simply smiled and led Dan back to bed. Every night for a month after that, Dan would get out of bed and either walk to stand in front of our door or in front of our window. He would mutter something about not letting them in or them getting closer before I would pull him back to bed. Every morning I would ask him about it, and he'd tell me he had no clue what I was talking about. Nothing else seemed strange about him, though. During the day, he wasn't any more fatigued than usual. He didn't seem paranoid or scared. Everything was fine until he'd go to bed. One night, he jolted out of bed suddenly and ran for the door. I was worried he might run out, so I jumped out of the bed to stop him. "They're here!" he yelled in a panic. Before I could even ask, Dan was going on. Before I could even ask Dan what's going on, he went on the defense. He started screaming at the door, telling them to leave. They weren't allowed to come to him. They weren't welcome. With every passing minute, he seemed to become more and more agitated. "You can't have him," he yelled, before punching a hole in the wall next to the door. Daniel Thomas. Screaming his name like that seemed to startle him awake enough. "Huh? What?" He looked around confused and then whined about his hand hurting. I led him to the bathroom, patched him up the little gash across his knuckles, then led him back to bed. He was out like a light again as soon as his knees touched the bed. While he didn't talk the rest of the night, he still tossed and turned quite a bit. I was becoming steadily more concerned, as this didn't just seem to be a reoccurring nightmare. Whatever was happening was very real, to him at least. I tried asking him to see a doctor or a therapist, but he said there was no purpose in wasting the money when he felt fine. I thought maybe I was just jumping to conclusions. Maybe I was just paranoid. Until a few nights ago, when Dan suddenly sat up in bed. I was prepared to bring him back to bed from the door, but he didn't get out. He just stared into the darkest corner of our room, which is next to our dresser. "Dan? They're here," he whispered without moving. "They got in." His eyes were wide open and focused on that one corner. "Dan, you're freaking me out." Suddenly that attention was turned to me. "They aren't of this world, but they are trapped. They're angry. They feast in the dark, but want to devour our light, or devour your light. Don't let them take your light, Harley. Don't let them. I won't let them hurt you." I could feel my heart sink into the pit of my stomach. His voice was so serious and his eyes bore into mine. He pulled me close to him and pressed my head against his chest. I could hear his heart beating under my ear, and tried to use that to forget about what he had just said. Lately, though, I've been becoming more fearful. I've started seeing shadows move in the dark parts of our apartment. Our electric bill is shot through the roof from me trying to keep the lights on all the time. I haven't been able to sleep right because I keep having these nightmares that make me wake up screaming in a cold sweat, but I can never remember what they are about. I don't know what is happening, but my boyfriend's dreams are starting to scare me.
That's it?
Yeah.
God damn it.
We're getting really bad about getting stories that don't have a conclusion, you know?
The open-endedness is pretty common on like Reddit forums and stuff like that.
Because it makes you sit there and think about it and ponder it. There's no closure. I liked that one though because it kind of has like an alien almost aspect to it.
I was worried about black-eyed children.
Oh,
I kept thinking about like they're outside, they're coming, like they're outside the door, they want in.
It gave me the vibes of the episode. I forget what it was, but I think it was a paranormal show on YouTube. They went to a medium's house, and she contacted otherworldly beings.
Oh shit! That's a thing. That's
cool. by like basically putting them down on a table with all the crystals and the whole get up,
honing them in.
Yeah, and she said that she's seen these people as well. That I don't know. It's the whole thing.
That's cool.
I'll have to send you all
Yeah,
the
if
video.
you find that, send that to me. That's interesting. So.
I believe the woman's in Austin. Too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, so it's like close to home. All right, cool. I wouldn't mind getting honed in. throw a rope ladder down. I'll climb up.
They did an investigation in her house as it was going on. And
Oh,
it was kind of interesting.
that's interesting. So,
I can tell you where my mind went on it. Like,
oh yeah, what'd you
so
get?
the way that they wrote it, I could see it. Also, Colby's previous story being like it had a short associated with it, like a film
Yeah.
skit or something. I could see that one turned into a skit pretty well.
Oh yeah,
And because all three of us were pretty heavily involved in filmmaking
Yeah.
and stuff like that, my mind immediately went to like, how would you shoot that? Like,
oh
what,
dude,
what would
yeah.
make this cool? So the scene that was playing out in my head, I did blank out on like 30 seconds of your story because it's like, oh, that's creepy. He stands up, he jolts up in bed. He looks at the darkest corner, and instead of saying whatever else it is, like you're the wife like waking up, and then he's just staring in the corner and just guttural screaming like get out like
Oh.
yeah, I can picture that dark room and shot from like the corner where you can see both of them. I would love to have assets to do this, but
That
that's
would be
where my mind
so
went.
fucked. Oh my god. You could do a solid like 30 minutes, a short film
Yeah, about
just
that,
on
just-
that.
yeah.
Easy. Man,
And
we
then
should,
you
we
just
should do that.
And then you just see a shoulder of a shadow man just
Something
Kind of
else,
like,
yeah, like
glide
kinda
go out and
into-
disappear.
Ooh, hail to the
Like it's like
no.
it's facing the dark corner, and you just see the shoulder like come out of the corner and then go back.
Is this
and
is
disappear.
the second time we're gonna mention mortuary assistant because
Yeah.
that's where that fear comes from.
Yeah, dude.
The little white
I literally-
creature just
Yeah.
popping back. Oh, so scary.
Oh my god! Please, y'all, any listeners, play the demo. I think is it free? No, it's
It's a free demo.
Yeah,
yeah,
free.
it's a free demo, and you on Steam, you will not be disappointed.
It's so good.
Yes.
Best horror game I've played in a while.
Yes. Oh my god, it made me cry, like literally, like on stream.
There's clips of it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
clips of both of ours. Yeah.
So the reason why that kind of popped out to me was, do y'all have any reoccurring nightmares?
Yes.
No.
So,
I
so
actually
you do?
just had a recent one. It's not really nightmares. It's not really a nightmare because it's I don't know. It's more annoying than scary. If that makes that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I have a reoccurring dream where it's the four of us in the band going to some city, and we stay in a hotel overnight. And every time there's a computer in that hotel room, and I'm sitting at the computer playing like music. And the only reason that the music playing from the computer is part of it is because it usually happens when I fall asleep with music playing on my phone.
So that music is
So
playing.
that music
yeah.
is playing in my dream, and the dream is that computer playing music, and then someone comes in the hotel room to like talk to us, or one of us is trying to say something, and I'm over here trying to like figure out how to turn the music off on the
you
computer,
can't?
and I can't. And I'm just doing everything to troubleshoot and just try to like, I've done everything but smash the computer.
Now the next time you hear it, you're gonna smash the computer, and your brain's just gonna be like,
Dude.
"What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Dude, that's interesting.
That's
it's
recent.
It's like it sucks because like you've trapped yourself because you listen to music going to sleep. So yeah, your
Yeah.
outer part is not. That's funny.
And I don't have the skill to lucid dream to realize
Yeah,
that
like
it's
what's
coming
going
from
on.
the outside, or
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
mine.
I actually have a dream log of like shit.
Yeah, so I've had like the doll reoccurring dreams I've
Yeah.
told y'all about that like progressively get like more intense and aggressive. But I also have another one that I've had since I was a like wee little kid. And so I don't know if you've ever seen the original Evil Dead, but the cabin in that movie, so it's that cabin. It's always starts out like it's out in the woods, same setting, but I run into the cabin and I'm like being chased, and I shut the door. I nail all of the windows in the door shut, like with nails and hammer.
Yeah.
And then I go, and the cabin for some reason is, it's shaped like the Evil Dead cabin, but there's like all these rooms, like one after another, one after another. I shut that door, nail that one. I keep repeating that over and over, and it's wolves that are chasing me. And I can hear, like, as I'm getting done with, like, the
gaining on
second
you.
to the last room, I start hearing them, like, surround the house, and I can hear them, like, growling and snarling and kind of howling and barking and pacing around. And then I get to the last room, and I'm, like, nailing it shut, and I hear them break through the first door. And I, like, kind of, like, finish up the windows in the back, and I just sit down, like, exhausted at the end where there's, you know, it ends finally, and I'm, like, up against the wall just facing the door, and I can hear them just like they break through another one, they break through another one, they break through another one, and then they're at the last one, and I, like, literally, like, have this, like, just overwhelming sense of dread, and then an overwhelming sense of acceptance, and then they break through, and I literally always wake up as the wolf's mouth, like, goes like that, and I can see down his throat, and I wake up, like, right before he eats my face.
And it's the same every time.
Same every time.
What the
I'm the
fuck?
same size. I'm a kid. Everything.
My
Yeah.
brains do weird things, man.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
I've
I-
had that dream for 20, no, more than that. Like, I don't know.
Okay,
I'm
so-
31,
You're old, yeah.
and I was like 7 when I first had it. So how
I'm gonna
long
read
that
y'all
is.
one of my
23 years.
dreams that I logged down.
You, like, wrote it down?
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
every
cool.
time that I can remember
Uh-huh.
the dream, like, vividly, and I am, it wakes me up enough to the point where I'm like,
You, like,
awake.
grab
I'm
your
awake
phone?
enough to
Yeah.
type it down. I do it. I try to, and a lot of the times it's very
Incoherent.
incoherent and, like, just like notes,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, shorthand.
Shorthand, yeah. And so this happened on actually my sister's birthday of this year, the June 1st. Middle of the night, father is driving me to newly bought aunt and uncle's house, pulls up in the driveway perpendicular to the giant 3-story Victorian style home.
Jesus, you typed those big ass words while you're, like, still sleepy? Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
It's because it had to be, like,
Very
described,
distinctive,
yeah. I open my passenger side door and gaze onto the front porch, directly at the main door. I begin to get a feeling of dread like I have never felt before, like the feeling that if I were to get out of this car, I was surely a goner. I don't know by what or who, but there's something about staring at the front of a Victorian style home in the middle of the night. Waiting for the safety of my uncle to open the door or something, as I was way too terrified to walk up by myself. I heard a single footstep on the gravel driveway, followed by another, then another. By the third step, I quickly turned and looked at my dad and asked him, "Do you hear that?" As tired as he was, and wanting nothing more than for me to just get out and go to my uncle's house, he heard the footsteps from the beginning of the driveway as well. These were very heavy footsteps on freshly spread gravel. Footsteps got closer and closer, increasing in speed. My dad quickly reacting and put the car in reverse as he is starting to back out. My passenger side door is still wide open, and we can hear the footsteps in a full sprint towards the car. There's nothing coming. Like, we can't see it. Like,
What the fuck?
yeah, like, we can see the driveway.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing
So you're hearing
the gravel
full-
driveway.
you know how I
but
am
it's
about fucking
full
sprints,
on,
dude.
like, yeah. As the driveway ends, he pulls out onto another street, forcefully slamming my door. As soon as we're on the street, he plans to put the car in drive, but pauses for a moment, and we both notice the footsteps had stopped completely. I call my uncle, and then my aunt. Both calls went straight to voicemail.
And that's how it ends?
Yeah.
They gone. They gone. The ghost got him. The ghost runner. Fuck that. Dude, that's a terrifying dream.
It's so wild to me to hear y'all talk about that because I rarely remember dreams.
Really?
Like I
And
can't
see-
remember the last dream I had.
What?
Like every single night, it's just kind of rest, eyes awake, and it's like this day's going.
You don't have, like, any, like...
I'm sure I have,
Just
but
like
I don't
just
remember
like
a single one.
just like a screen, like a shot of a scene. Like,
What about feelings? Do you ever wake up and feel
yeah.
a certain way?
he's
that one time, yeah.
yeah, the one time.
But usually it's just like again, you know. No,
And
it's,
ain't it all of us, right?
no, the only time I woke up with like a feeling like that was that one day. Oh man, it was weird. Now that I'm thinking about it again, I was sleeping.
Because your mom called you, or did you call your mom?
Oh, is that? Oh, I remember you telling us about that.
Yeah.
You felt like someone had died.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so
that's
you
what it
called your
was.
mom.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
That was the same night that I had I fell asleep. I think it was like this is hard to recall.
I remember coming to work. For those who don't know, me and Caleb worked together at a car dealership.
Was I weird that morning?
Very. I got to the desk and you're just like, something's wrong.
That's crazy.
And I'm like,
Damn.
what's up? And he was like, I just feel like that overwhelming sense of like dread, like
Yeah.
someone like someone in the family had like died or something, and I'm like just waiting for the call.
Dude, that's great. I will say that my wife, she has that all the
Yeah.
time.
That was the same night that I can't remember the exact time I like woke up, went to bed, but I remember checking the clock. So I fell asleep. I woke up maybe like 4 a.m. ish and like kind of like shuffled around, like checked my phone.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then I like, oh no, it wasn't 4 a.m. It was 6 to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Because I could hear family around, like brushing their teeth, like,
Yeah.
getting stuff ready. And I thought I felt someone put their weight on the
Like
bed.
your brother.
That
Yeah.
Wait, that was the same.
That was the
That
day.
was the same day?
Yeah, that was the same day.
what
So I felt,
the fuck?
I felt like kind of like someone was kind of like leaning on the bed. So like left hand,
only,
right hand.
Not only did
Yeah.
you have like some weird physical shit happen
Yeah.
to you
Then you
in
got
bed,
that.
and then you fucked up.
You fucked up.
God damn it.
Then you woke up feeling
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
And
That's,
the end of that, for people that don't know, is like
Yeah.
I felt like heavy weight from like someone. The best way I can describe it is like someone put their left hand on, right hand on, like they were about to crawl into bed, and then put weight down like they sat, or like they maybe put a knee and they were just kind of like looking, or
Oh, like
something
leaning
that.
in on you.
Yeah, and then but what I remember like feeling the weight at the end of the bed. It was at my feet, and I remember like not looking, and then I must have just like snapped, and I was like just like peeked out of the side of my eye, and no one was there. The weight was gone and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back to bed now. We'll get another hour of sleep before I gotta wake up.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
intense. That I'm gonna have a nightmare of that.
But other than that, like no dream. I cannot remember a single
Even when you were a kid, like nightmares or anything, like
no, like nothing.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about about that, but
Well, just some people like it's just maybe you're not going into REM sleep.
well, I also know like I've had dreams that I like can vaguely remember that when I like as soon as I wake up,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, oh, why did I have to leave it, or something like that.
You like bummed.
Yeah, but then I'll like forget about it immediately. So it could be a
Yeah.
thing where I'm having them and I'm just not remembering.
Yeah, I mean that happens too. Like, that's how my wife is too. She's like, I had a weird dream, but I don't remember what it was, but it was weird. I'm like, cool. You know, like
Yeah.
what the
that's
fuck?
why I got into the habit of writing my shit down as soon as I wake up.
Yeah, I'm a very I mean that's a good idea. I kind of want to ask you to do that.
You should
I have
probably,
I'm very good
You
at
should do that with
remembering.
yours, so like you would remember
I
the
recently
details.
had a pretty bad dream that was like a fucking War of the Worlds thing, like where like aliens came down and they kind of looked like the War of the Worlds, where it flew and it had the neck thing that could like look
Oh,
around
yeah.
and shit. And I remember we were in like a blown up building, trying to like not let it see us, so we were moving like up against the wall, and it would like kind of come this way, and we would like move, like we were trying to like move where it was, we were just out of sight of it
Yeah.
essentially, and then we like got out and like took off running, and you could see like the big ones like destroying buildings and stuff. And I've had
I'm
that
trying
dream a
really
couple
hard
of
to
times.
remember when I can't remember a single
You're
dream.
trying so hard.
Yeah.
It's all good, man. Maybe one day if you do,
If
you
I
know.
do, I'll
Do you
like
do
log
you
it.
do you remember mornings of like waking up and you had something that you remembered?
Yeah, that's
No.
what he was
No.
saying.
No, yeah, like like there's been a handful of times where I like wake up and I can't recall the dream now.
Yeah.
Because it's like
Yeah.
it was so
But you
insane.
knew
But
you
but you remember like envisioning something.
Yeah.
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 But it's very rare.
I wonder I wonder if you just don't go into REM sleep, because that's
I have
like
no
the
idea.
like
And that-
apparently that's the level of sleep where you dream.
And it's half and half time for me, half and half of the time that I have dreams, it's I wake up and I instantly remember, all right, I need to write this down. And then the other half is like I'll have like the most vivid or like terrifying thing happen in my dream, and I'll be so fucking just like distraught from it.
Yeah.
I'll just want to go back to sleep or something.
Have you ever gone back to sleep and the dream continued?
Yes.
That's happened to me.
Yes.
That's a fucking nightmare, and it's always scary dreams. I'll literally wake myself up like
it's usually during the day.
yeah, when you have like a
happens.
nap or something.
Yeah.
and you'll wake yourself up and you're like fuck that, and then you're like all right, I'm good, and you go back and it's like fucking all right, we we're right where we left off. Like yeah, fuck that shit. It sucks.
Wild.
Yeah, I'll have like a Sunday off, and I'll sleep in late, and then just not doing anything
Like
all
cat
day.
nap or something.
Yeah, and like I'll I'll eat lunch and then end up falling asleep,
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
It's such an old man.
and
thing
then
to do.
I'll end up having the same like
Shit
same-
sucks.
the
Oh
same
wait, like
progression.
that far in between.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
even- yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna make a strong effort to write down the next thing I remember. If,
See,
if
yeah,
I
that's
have
that's
any.
what I was trying to
Yeah,
get out is
because-
that sometimes it's hard as shit to remember to do that,
yeah.
Yeah.
and I can see that being a problem for some people.
Possible.
I'm really interested, like especially like since you don't like. I wonder if it's like your brain blocking that shit out. Like maybe you just
Maybe
have
they're just
really
all awful dreams.
Yeah.
They're like terrible. By the time I wake up, it's like, no, I'm not gonna let
Yeah,
you
no,
go
Or
through
maybe
that.
what was
Brain's like,
on your
"Fuck
bed
that."
is
Swiping
suppressing
them.
suppressing
That'd be
your memory.
awfully nice if it's just there's a ghost there and every morning it gives me a little forehead kiss. Mwah, bye to
Dream
your bad
gone.
dreams.
Let's go with that. I like that idea. We're
Well,
gonna make a shirt out of that. Just
mean-
Caleb sleeping and the ghost is like,
To be honest, like this is one area that we've had like some weird shit go on.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
that's very
So I
true.
wouldn't be surprised that it extends to
We don't know the rules.
your actual
I don't know
house.
the rules, yeah.
We don't know the rules. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up.
Well, I know we've gone on a tangent here just a little bit,
Oh,
but
yeah.
real quickly, has there been any creepy things that have happened since the last one?
Okay, yeah, I have one. So I, for the listeners that don't know, I am a chef for a rehab facility. I'm a chef for a rehab, or I used to be a chef for a rehab facility. I'm actually moving into becoming a recovery
Hey-o, good job.
advocate. Yeah, recovery assistant. And so, basically, like I'm going to be working nights during the weekends. Well, the guy who actually is going to be the person to train me this next week when I start my new shifts, he was sick on Friday, so I basically.
I am stuck.
So I covered for him. They asked if I could cover for him since I'm going to be starting that anyway. You good, bro?
Hold on, I'm unplugged currently.
Oh shit.
I'm back.
Yeah. So
My
I did a shift on Friday night and into Saturday morning, and I was doing my first round like cleaning, and it's fucking desolate. They're all sleeping.
Yeah.
And I go into the one of the areas called the Pearl Barn, and this place has been around since like the 1800s or whatever.
Don't look at me. Continue your story.
Oh,
Okay.
and so it's been around since the 1800s. Well, I don't know, man. I went into one of the offices, and I felt like I was being watched, and it freaked me the fuck out because the light was off, and I instantly did this number. Like I opened the door, and I just stood and looked at the dark, and I was like, "Fuck that!" And I just went. Phew. I didn't take my eyes off the dark because I was afraid that if I looked to the side, that whatever it was would get
Yeah.
me, and I kept feeling that, and that nowhere else. And I cleaned like the clinical building, which had a bunch of dark rooms in it. That was, the dining hall was fine. Everywhere else was fine. I even had to like basically. You have to go and do rounds of the property. I had to do that 3 times. I'm out in the middle of fucking nowhere in the middle of the night doing rounds with a flashlight, and nothing bothered me. But when I went into that room, into that building, I just had this feeling the entire time that somebody was just like looking in a window, just, watching me. And for, they usually say that if you feel like you're being watched, 9 times out of 10, you're being watched by something, because humans have the ability to sense that. Like we sense that. If you were to say I went to sleep and y'all two just sat there and stared at me, my body's going to know that you're there, sitting there staring at me. Like I'll have that feeling. But yeah, it was weird. It freaked me out.
You know the one place that goes away is on stage. That's weird for me. Like it's like I don't feel like anybody's watching.
Really?
True. There's a sense of that. I feel that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to explain. It's never going to make sense to people that haven't played.
I
on the
also
stage
never.
before.
I also never really look at the crowd.
I can never see because the lights fucking blind me.
That
but
is true.
I was gonna say, we need to get you to investigate. Like
place.
obviously we can't all go to your work,
Yeah.
but I think
I've also had multiple accounts of like ghostly shit happen.
Yeah.
to me, like the
I think we
keys
should send some equipment with you.
Oh,
and-
you know, it's really funny that you say that because the night nurse that worked there, she was like, "So you have like a scary pile?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I had my paranormal investigator hat on. I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Wait, like for real?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Wait, you have the equipment?" I was like, "Yeah, we got a REM pod, we got all this." She's like, "You're messing with me." And I'm like, "No, like we've got all the stuff." She's like, "You should." She said the same thing. Like, you should bring some of it out here and let's see like what happens.
That'd
Because
be
like I
dope.
had the incident with the keys. The keys
Yeah.
are sitting in the middle of the table and then they fell. That
and the
happened
pots
right in
and
front of
pans
me.
in the kitchen.
Pots and pans in the kitchen, like
The
quite
person you
literally
thought
falling and
passing
hitting
you.
me in the head.
Yeah.
And then the recent with the person passing me, and now in the Pearl Barn
Yeah.
feeling like somebody's watching. Dude,
Has there ever been any deaths on the property?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Now, see, there's a lot of mental anguish. I know,
Yeah, and see that could be.
like just a
much
source
energy
of
there.
energy.
Yeah, you know, them going there and they are going through a lot of emotional things and
Yeah.
reliving trauma and all of that stuff.
a lot
So
of
that
spiritual
could be,
changes.
yeah, that could be. That's a very valid point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
It
have to
could be a
send you
crossing ground.
over there with some gear.
Yeah,
God,
I'll
I
have
have
to
to
do it one
chill.
day.
So
yeah. No, like we
And
need
just
to
document it. I granted I cannot
like
record
anytime
myself
something.
Yeah.
anywhere or anything
Yeah.
like that, but maybe I can record audio for sure.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, but I can't do like an actual. Well,
But anytime something weird happens, just try to get some kind of like documentation of it.
I feel like I could. I know that you can't. You're not allowed to take pictures of the clients, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean there are pictures of the prairie online, so I feel like I could, as long as I don't get any
yeah.
clients in the video or pictures, then I think it'd be okay.
Yeah.
If I'm doing little snippets,
I mean, you
like if
don't have
something
to-
happens and I'm like, yeah, that just happened, like that'd
Yeah.
be,
You don't have to put anything in Word right now. I'm
Yeah.
sure we got to talk to people and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah.
I can, before we get onto the story topic, I can end it on a little bit of a lighter note that I just scared myself like right now. whenever I was messing with my audio cable,
Yeah.
I unplugged it, plugged it back in. So for people watching, we have in-ears and they're
Yeah.
running behind our back.
Yeah.
There's some cables. Yeah, you can switch to me. We got
Yeah.
cables back here. And my chair is mesh. So I put them back in and I leaned back and I did that. And it sounds like somebody behind me going,
You're just like,
It sounds like,
Oh,
because
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
cable
yeah.
rubbing
Okay.
on the mesh.
I thought you meant like you were like holding it in a way that it was
No.
like okay.
Yeah, no. So you started your thing, and I went like this, and I heard I was like,
nope.
So I spooked myself for a second.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Okay, is it reoccurring nightmares?
episode that would be fucked.
It's in there.
Is it really?
Isn't reoccurring nightmares in the?
Oh, I
Steven
don't. Maybe.
Alexander? I think
Oh,
you wrote
yeah,
it.
because I wrote it.
No.
As soon as you had the
Not-
look on your face, I was like, God damn it! Did we just like spoil our own stories?
Oh,
okay, what do we got?
So I read this and I instantly had the vision of what I envisioned when I first heard Dan and Lindsay talk about this.
Okay.
It's Black Eyed Children.
Oh god damn, we brought
Yes!
it up. We brought it up. Yes. Too.
I've been wanting to do Black Eyed Children so
Fucking,
bad.
can we come in? Why'd you have to write that?
You wrote
oh,
that
you
one.
fucker.
Here it is, Black
There
Eyed
it is,
Children.
Black Eyed Children.
Elvira will very neatly hold it for us.
Real fun fact. So we live in Texas, and we have been to the town where Black Eyed Children originated from,
Lubbock?
Abilene.
It's in Abilene? I didn't know that. I remember the original story. I didn't know it was
The
in
original
Abilene.
story where he was in his car and,
Yeah.
and the teens came up, that happened in Abilene, Texas. That's apparently the first accounted story.
Okay, it's the first
Yeah.
account.
I think that was in the 90s.
I couldn't tell you. But hey,
80s or
we'll get
90s?
into it on the next episode.
And I'm sure we'll all have separate Black Eyed
yeah.
Children stories
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's
I think
there's
we
a
can do it, yeah.
there's a ton of
One
them
of
out
us
there.
has to, if even if you want to do another story, we need to talk about the that original
Yeah.
one.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I'm sure one of us will touch on it. We'll discuss after.
All right, so that's it for episode 23 of Dead Reflections Podcast. We'd like to shout out our friends in Dark Hour Podcast and Honolulu Podcast. We definitely encourage you guys to give them a listen and check them out.
Follow us at Dead Reflections Podcast on all social medias or follow the link tree to find our socials. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the video version of this podcast on YouTube. Email us at deadreflectionspod@gmail.com to Submit your stories. Let us know how we're doing. Tell Kolby how much you hate the Dallas Stars. And all band-related social medias can be found at FWFTX.
Please don't forget to leave a rating or review anywhere you listen. They really do help us and get our name out there to find new listeners. Thank you for all your continued support. And remember, tell your family, tell your friends, and tell the monsters under your bed to listen to Dead Reflections Podcast. Have a spooky night.